We are going to talk about how Spring is configured to talk to the MySQL database. The first thing I want to point your attention to is the first entry itself in web.xml. What it says is context config location points to springbeans.xml, and we are saying context loader listener. So these two in conjunction do some magic. What they do is, first of all, let us open springbeans.xml and see what it has. So webinf classes springbeans.xml. This guy has only one line which says import resource equal to startupbeans.xml. Let's open up startupbeans.xml. Alright. Now what we have here is a series of Spring definitions. Each of these definitions creates a bean. A bean, as you know by now, is an object with getters and setters, but it could also contain other methods, which we will go through later. So anyway, the first thing that happens here is he creates a bean called myDataSource with commons dbcp. That's actually connection pooling from Apache, and what we pass as parameters are the MySQL driver, the entire URL. So even if you install MySQL on your machine, localhost is where it runs and stockapp is the database name, and root and admin001 or the username and the passwords. The next thing here is my session factory. Now Hibernate operates through session factories and it has mapping XMLs. So the way Hibernate works is it's an object relational mapping tool, and you have a database table and you will have a corresponding mapping XML, and that XML maps your database table to your Java object. Now it's not always a one-to-one mapping. Sometimes you might have one mapping XML mapping multiple tables to multiple objects. You could even have one table mapping to multiple objects. We will go through all those complexities later, but for now it's pretty simple. The users.hpm.xml is going to map to the users table. Alright. Dialect, MySQL dialect, you could have Oracle dialect as well. If you have an Oracle connection, you would probably end up using something like this as your driver and some URL like this. Alright. Let's go down. The next thing we do is basically create a Hibernate template, and we pass in the my session factory as a property to it. So you will notice some things. Let me complete the user DAO. User DAO is a bean which points to the user DAO object, which gets the Hibernate template object. Alright, what we are seeing here is basically dependency injection. It's a very important concept to understand. It is the heart of Spring. It is an interview question. If you say you know Spring, they will ask you what is dependency injection. Alright, so let us pay attention very carefully here. I am going to open up the user DAO object. Navigate, open resource, user DAO, and we already saw this object. All it has is one Hibernate template property. Alright, how does this Hibernate template get its value? Go back to this guy, and user DAO gets its property set through a reference to Hibernate template. Hibernate template gets its values set using my session factory. My session factory gets its values set using my data source, the two HPM XMLs, and the dialect. My data source gets its value set based on your driver, your URL, username, password. So each of these objects have some dependencies, and we are injecting these dependencies as properties. This is dependency injection. Okay, it is used extensively in Spring, and the big benefit is code cutting. So you could pretty much change your complete database connection from a MySQL source to a Oracle source merely by changing or enabling this particular Oracle connection and then changing the data source to point to the Oracle connection. No code change whatsoever. It is so powerful. You could easily add a new HBM XML right here and say, okay, now I am using the third table in my database. So you can see that the possibilities are pretty endless. All right. So all of this is fine. Now we are going to look at the next step, which is HBM XML itself. Open up and see what is there.